Welcome back to the JeSpective, where I do culture commentary, go over some life lessons, and everything in between. Guys, I have not done a live stream in a while, and I figured today was the day. So there's this Piers Morgan interview there. He had a couple guys on to discuss free speech and censorship after Kanye West's crazy Twitter tirade from the other day. Now, I'm going to be very, very honest. I did not get fully caught up with everything that is the shenanigans behind Kanye West, but I started to watch this debate here on Piers Morgan, and I found it quite interesting. And I thought that, hey, you know, I might not fully know what he said because, again, it's kind of hard to keep up with the ramblings of a madman. But the debate they're having around it and what kind of sparked it is very interesting. So instead of me just watching it by myself, I figured let's hop on this live stream and go through it today here with you guys. So let's do that. Let's see what we can find. Let's see what we can discover, and let's have fun. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's first try to make sure everything's good here, though. It's been a while, guys. I got some technical difficulties, but we're gonna get through this today. All right, here we go.
White man walked up to you and said, "Hey, get out the way." You support that?
I support his right.
Real quick, guys, I'm going to put this on 1.25 because this is a long one. I'm not even 100% sure if we're going to get all the way through it, but we're going to go through as much as we can right now. And this is still a good enough speed to where it's going to pick up the pace a little bit, but we still can reasonably hear what everyone's saying. So, okay, let's keep going.
Right to say it.
What is funny about beating up a woman?
People like you are the fucking problem.
This interview, respectfully, will be on your highlight career, living in infamy.
You're running around with someone that's literally a war criminal wanted by the ICC, and then you're over here calling for censorship. I'm tired of anti-Semitism. I'm tired of racism.
You are a Jew hater, and you have a right to be a Jew hater.
Fuck your feelings, dude.
Free speech means the right to express ideas and opinions without fear of censorship or sanction. It applies equally to speech, which many consider deeply offensive. In fact, that's arguably when it's most important. Otherwise, the loudest and most powerful voices have total control over ideas, and they have the ability to crush dissent. But there are limits to free speech, even under the First Amendment. There's no First Amendment right to share child pornography, threaten individuals, or incite violence. Rapper Ye, hereafter, I'm going to call him Kanye West. I'm done with calling him Ye. Unleashed a wild flood of anti-Semitic posts on X this weekend. He was misogynist, he was racist, he was frankly disgusting. He talked about violence against women, he talked about violence against Jewish people and enslaving them, he talked about loving Hitler, he talked about white people and Jewish people who are different and the Jews are always going to steal. And whether this endless vile tirade was tantamount to incitement of violence against Jewish people is, I guess, open to debate. He certainly wanted people to think very disparagingly of them, if not hate them. I would argue that identifying as a Nazi alone implies that, yeah, maybe he shares a mindset of people who literally exterminated millions of Jews. Not to mention...
Okay, real quick. Again, like I said, I don't have all the tweets here, but if he is giving an accurate accounting of some of the things Kanye West has said, then clearly dude hasn't learned his lesson from the last time he went on a crazy Twitter tirade and knocked himself down from billionaire status after losing his Yeezy deal with Adidas and all the other crazy things he does. I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know what to think about Kanye West anymore. At first, it was like, dude probably has some mental issues, and I still think that. But also, he clearly just likes the attention. He likes the ability to just say whatever you want without repercussions. But like, we don't live in a world where you can say whatever you want without repercussions. And some of those aspects in reference to free speech and everything related to it are going to be some of the main elements that we're going to see discussed within this debate. So let's. I guess he's giving a bit of a summary here. Just want to give some of my initial thoughts. Let's keep it going.
Mentioned his statement that you have to put Jews in their place and make them into your slaves. Something that he then followed up with this. He said, Jews were better as slaves. You have to put Jews in their place and make them into your slaves. He then said, sometimes you have to do it like the pharaohs. Make your Jews work for you, but watch them as close as you can. Whip your Jews. Whip your Jews as you treat them like slaves.
Yo, I can't.
What does that mean? Is that ambiguous?
Oh,
is that
man.
freedom of speech? Or is that a clarion call to commit acts of violence against Jewish people? What seems crystal clear is that Kanye West was in clear violation of X's own rules on hateful conduct. The platform under Elon Musk has suspended more than 5 million accounts since he took over. It censored Kanye's account yesterday as not suitable for work when he posted legal pornography. And Musk has previously banned Kanye West entirely for posting a swastika interlaced with the Star of David, which he said was incitement to violence. So why was Kanye allowed to spend the whole weekend unloading shocking abuse on Jewish people before apparently leaving voluntarily? And more broadly, just what the hell is going on with this idiot? Well, joining me now to debate all this, host of the Fresh and Fit podcast, Myron Gaines, the rapper and podcaster Zuby, America's rabbi and author of Holocaust Holiday, Rabbi Shmuley Motayak, and the commentator and YouTuber Choke No Joke. Okay, let me start with you, Myron, because you and I got into a little Twitter exchange yesterday about free speech. And it seems to me, with Kanye and this tirade that's went on for days, there are two debates to be had. One is whether what he was doing was contrary to X's own rules by the same definition that they have suspended millions of accounts. And I posted a graph showing why people got suspended, a lot of it for harassment, hateful conduct, and so on. So I think there's literally no dispute or doubt that he did. So the question remains, why was he then not suspended, but able to leave voluntarily? But the wider debate that I think you and I were having was about freedom of speech and where that begins and ends. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you seem to be suggesting that you don't think there is an end. In other words, you can say absolutely anything you want, to which I would say, well, I don't think you should be able to say to 32 million people on a platform that you want to make Jewish people your slaves and whip them. Do you?
Okay, real quick. Let me kind of, I guess real quick, let me kind of give my thoughts on what he's saying there, because, and to give you guys, I'm going to let Myron speak, of course, but to give you guys just a summary of some of Myron's views on this and some of the things that he has kind of believed in, even to the point of, I guess, even to the point of the destruction of his own platform and reach. He's trying to take the position, in most cases, of a free speech absolutist, right? So the right to say whatever you want to say, whether or not he agrees with it. And in principle, I could kind of respect it, but in reality, it's not realistic. It never is. Even within the bounds of the First Amendment itself, there are always limitations on free speech. It's kind of like the examples of, you can't go into a airplane and yell like bomb, right? Or like you can't go in a movie theater and yell fire. You also can't make threats against people. You can't, there's always limits to what you can do and what you can say. You can't say anything, right? But it's like within that, can you fight for a system that allows people to say whatever they want short of those things? Sure, but that does not necessarily mean you have the freedom of speech, but you don't have the freedom of repercussions. And I think that's like, Kanye West is a perfect example of this. He was able to go and say whatever he wanted to say. He didn't get put in jail or anything like that. But that also doesn't mean people have to associate with him anymore, right? So, all right, let me let Myron get on with it, and we'll get back more into some of my thoughts on it in general. But that's, pretty much that's going to be the gist, I think, of where this conversation goes. Let's keep it going.
Well, I think the thing is, when Elon took over X, he wanted to mirror it with the First Amendment. And the First Amendment allows a broad range of speech to be allowed. And the reality is, if we don't have free speech, we don't have a democracy. And that's literally from Elon Musk himself. Now, we want to talk about unequal punishment on X, based on some people saying this is getting punished and people saying this and not getting punished. That's a whole other conversation. But I think if you're going to mirror the First Amendment with Twitter, then you need to allow that speech in.
Right, but look, on the first point about X's rules, he clearly transgressed pretty much every rule they have. I think that's unarguable. So it's for Elon to explain why, in the end, he was only censored, which he was, because he posted legal pornography. It seems to me extraordinary that legal pornography is deemed to be more offensive and more worthy of censorship than saying that you should make Jews your slaves and whip them. So let me bring in on that, Zuby. You and I have debated free speech many times, but on that specific point, I mean, do you view the publication of legal pornography?
Real quick, I don't know if Kanye West actually posted pornography on Twitter or YouTube. No, not YouTube. Definitely not YouTube. On Twitter, I'm not sure if he did that, but if he did, that's pretty wild. But also, that stuff is actually on X. It's like, it's part of it. Like, Elon took over X, and there's just, I guess this might have always been the case, but he took over X, and you just see crazy stuff at different points in time. Like, you have to make sure you do a good job in just like blocking things and making sure that you clean up your algorithm from any of the nonsense that can come across, because that stuff is all allowed. Like, I mean, I know I've seen people say some crazy things, especially following Myron here, who has said some of the craziest things on Twitter. I'm not saying he's posted any crazy explicit content like that, but the words and the phrases and the memes and things he's posted are in most people's eyes, I think, beyond the pale. But again, I think he's doing it to stretch the bounds of what speech are and make his point. But let's keep going. I'm getting a bit off topic here.
On X as better or worse than what he said about making Jews slaves and whipping them?
If I'm being honest, I think it's all bad. I don't think that hardcore pornography should be on X. If I'm being honest, it's not on any other social media platform. And a big reason for that is because kids use these platforms. And if you've got that many followers and you start posting pornography, then naturally you're going to get some minors seeing it. And so that in itself is a problem. When it comes to inciting violence or calling for violence, I think.
Real quick, I get the point when we say about kids being on things. Also, kids probably shouldn't be on X. I'm going to just say that right now. So I get it's a problem when we talk about things that kids can use when they shouldn't and things they have access to, but also they shouldn't be on those things. And so I don't know if the platform should necessarily be governed on the fact that kids get on them when they shouldn't be. But that's just me. Let's keep going.
I think it's fair to say that he did cross that line. I mean, if you're saying to whip a certain race or ethnic group of people, whether he's pretending, and you've got the wider context of everything he's been saying beyond that, you'd have to go through it post by post. I think a lot of them, vast majority of them, I'm not a fan of. I would condemn what he's saying, but I would support his right to free speech. But when it comes up to the point of calling for violence, which he did in that specific one that you brought up, then yeah, that's a clear violation. I don't run X. I'm not Elon. I'm not a moderator, so I'm not in charge of that. I'm a very staunch advocate for freedom of speech.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a line.
It sounds like you share my view. I mean, bringing the rabbi here. I mean, Rabbi, if I was Jewish, I'm not, I'm an Irish Catholic. If I was Jewish, I'd have been utterly sickened by the constant tirade of blatantly anti-Semitic garbage that was being spewed by Kanye West. How are you feeling?
First of all, you're an honorary Jew because you've really supported Israel through this war, and we're grateful, Piers. Tolerating the intolerable is the liberalism of fools. You can speak about being a free speech absolutist, but there must be 3 exceptions: incitement to violence, commission of violence, and admission of violence. What's missing from this discussion is not that Kanye said that Jews should be whipped, it's that Kanye said that he has beaten women, and he said that women should be slapped, and his wife is in an abusive relationship, and Bianca Censori's family, who live in Melbourne, Australia, have done nothing to rescue her. Are we talking about whether there should be pornography on X? There was pornography at the Grammys. Professional lip readers had him tell his wife, Bianca Censori, take your mink coat off, and she is totally glassy-eyed. There is no free agency. She's an abused wife. She's an abused woman.
Wait, what did that say? Hold on. Let me just... What did that say? Real quick.
Abused wife. She's an abused woman. How is the media... Are we talking about whether there should be pornography on X? There was pornography at the Grammys. Professional lip readers had him tell his wife, Bianca Censori, take your mink coat off, and she is totally glassy-eyed. There's
Yo. Just deserve to get slapped. Yeah, I mean, you know, all right. I'm going to say this. Wow, I didn't think I knew I was getting myself into. Yeah, see, I did not follow up with this tirade, and this is kind of crazy. I can understand again from the perspective of fighting for. All right, let's start over. Ain't no one really want to be out here defending Kanye West. Okay, I mean, if he's out here doing stuff like this, you really don't want to be the guy defending Kanye West. But if you are to defend a principle, and the principle is free speech, that means also the freedom of speech you don't like. I think stuff like this is absolutely ridiculous. You would never catch me doing some nonsense like this. At the same time, you know, if it's within certain bounds, I mean, this, it's kind of hard to say. Because someone can argue if he's inciting violence, that's not protected. That's crazy, right? And if you read this, do you think he's inciting violence? I mean, to somebody, right? Like I can kind of see where it gets a little shaky, right? But I don't know, because also he's Kanye West, and if you can't understand the context that he's kind of off his rocker and you shouldn't take anything he takes seriously anyway, then you're missing a broader context. But all right, let's let the guy get on with it. We'll get back to this.
There's no free agency. She's an abused wife. She's an abused woman. How is the media becoming complicit in the absolute degradation and humiliation of this woman who he claims to have dominion over? And he says he slaps her around, and he says that he has practiced violence against women. Where is law enforcement? Why has an abused wife? She's an abused woman. How is the media becoming complicit in the absolute degradation and humiliation of this woman who he claims to have dominion over?
Again. Okay. I have dominion over my wife. This ain't no woke feminist-ish. She's a billionaire. Why would she listen to any of you dumb, broke I'm assuming that's dumbass broke bitches is likely what he's saying there, in case you guys need to see. People say the red carpet look was her decision. Yes, I don't make her do nothing she doesn't want to do, but she definitely wouldn't have been able to do it without my approval. You stupid ass woke pawns. Okay. I have no respect or empathy for anyone living because no one living can F with me. But I do love some people and give them favor. I mean, like I said, you ain't gonna catch me defending Kanye West, right? I don't even like this whole, like, I have dominion over my wife stuff. I just, it's not my cup of tea, okay? I'm not gonna be the guy who's defending Kanye West. But I can see if you want to defend free speech, again, you might have to defend things that you don't like. On the principle, not on the substance. This is trash substance. I want to make that very clear. But on the principle, I don't think he crossed any lines. Again, substance lines, think this is trash. But principle lines, I think he's still okay to say this. But let's keep going.
Over, and he says he slaps her around, and he says that he has practiced violence against women. Where is law enforcement? Why hasn't he been arrested? Why hasn't there been an investigation? Where is the rest of Hollywood and the Grammys to condemn violence?
Yo. Guys, is this real? I mean, I actually probably shouldn't even leave it here too long. I'm afraid YouTube is gonna take me down for this nonsense here. But like, this is wild. Like, this is wild, right? Like, it's your wife. You're gonna, like, she has a choice here. She's not a slave in this, okay? So we have to call her out too. Like, you're not, like, if they break up, I really don't want to hear from her some nonsense like I'm a victim of Kanye. Like, nah, okay? Like, at some point you chose to do this and you went along with it. I get it, dude's crazy too, but like, you went along with the crazy. But like, this is kind of wild. This is kind of wild. All right, let's get back to whatever he's saying.
Violence against women. The two most targeted victim groups in history are Jews and women. And notice that Kanye, the ultimate bully, goes after both. And let me say one final thing. I utterly reject any belief that Kanye is sick. He is not. He is wicked. There's a big difference. He knows when to turn it off. At the Grammys, he was completely normal. He wasn't there naked in any way. It was all about his wife. He didn't lose it. He said you're going to get a lot of attention. Everything he does is willful. It is motivated by a desire for attention, building his businesses. He is not crazy. That is an excuse. He is wicked and he is evil.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. The wicked and evil stuff is a bit loaded. Y'all can make the judgment for yourself whether or not you feel that is the right, verb, not verb. That is the right description to give Kanye. But I'm not gonna say that. But I will kind of agree a little bit. I used to think Kanye West was just straight up. Well, first I thought he was cool, right? We all thought he was like a genius. Then eventually he started to get off his rocker and it appeared dude is bipolar. He got some mental issues. And I still do think that. But also Kanye West just really likes the attention. And I think eventually he took the route of like, let me just be as crazy and as shocking as possible and dare the world to say it's something I can't do. And when they do, I will double down. Every single time. And I think just over time, being like a troll who just like is edgy, it only leads down one path, right? You push a little bit here, that's edgy. People think about it, but like, it's not too bad. You keep pushing. Oh, you know what? That's getting a little worse. And he sees the reaction and eventually it gets normalized, right? So being edgy like this always means you're going to keep pushing further down the path, and it gets crazy. It means sometimes you're gonna go out and you're gonna show up with your wife looking like that, right? And sometimes it means you're gonna hop on X and Twitter and push the balance of everything you can say because you are looking for the attention that you get from being a shock jock. Again, eventually, at first you get the attention, and he gets the attention here, but also, the downside is that people just stop taking you serious. Kanye West was like a highly respected artist, and he is a really great musical artist. But like, as far as like everything else going on with him, this is kind of ridiculous. Even to the point where sometimes he is so insane, you almost are kind of double thinking, should I be listening to the music? And I'll let y'all make that decision. All right, let's keep going.
I mean, I would add to this, Choke No Joke, that one of the most offensive things he did for me in his defense of Diddy, for example, he suddenly produced a T-shirt, which was a scene from the hotel lobby or the corridor where Diddy had beaten up one of his girlfriends, and it had her in the picture.
Man.
Right? This was literally a crime scene of appalling domestic abuse that we all saw the video, and he's trying to sell a T-shirt based on it. Now, that alone, to me, crossed any kind of line that should be tolerable for social.
I'm sorry, guys. I promise I'm gonna let us get through the video, but I just want to be clear. I did not follow any of this story. I did not know this guy was out here defending Diddy. There is like nobody left on the planet right now who is really defending Diddy. If you like saw the video with him and Cassie, if you know anything about some of the things that we know he did, I will just say everything else we hear about these other lawsuits, you can say theoretically we don't know, even though we probably kind of feel like maybe if we had to guess, we would probably guess some of that stuff, or most of that stuff is probably true. But allegedly, we don't know. But the Cassie stuff we have on video. And if after you see that, you're still defending him for that, you are wildin', okay? And that's clearly Kanye West in this case. All right, let's, oh man.
Social media.
Let's go.
Yeah, well, first of all, how you doing, Piers? Thanks for having me back.
Good to see you.
All right. Like the rabbi said, Kanye is just doing all this for attention. You know, he's not the topic of discussion in hip hop no more. The Super Bowl was going on. It was Kendrick's moment. He's trying to steal the shine because it's not about him. It's about Kendrick and Drake.
My bad.
Right now. And he is an embarrassment to the black man. You know, he is a pure embarrassment to the black community. 97% of us don't approve of what he's doing. He's disrespectful to women. I promise you, no disrespect to the Caucasian woman, but if that was a strong, sophisticated black woman, she would not have took her clothes off on that red carpet to satisfy Kanye chasing clout, which is fame or the spotlight. And I know Kanye. I was there the day he got signed at Rockefeller. I met his mother. I've been in his apartment. I know the humble Kanye that fame, once he's allegedly sold his soul to this game, he became this dark person. And what, like the rabbi said, what he's doing is very evil. I don't think that's freedom of speech. What he's doing, that can incite a riot, that can incite a hate attack on the Jewish community. And all he's doing it for is attention. There's nothing wrong with him. He's just mad because he's not relevant right now.
You know what? I
All right, and that I'm actually going to agree with. I agree with most of what he said. It's like, okay, again, it's like some of the things he's saying, you can call them his feelings, but like for some people, they could be interpreted as inciting violence, right? And I don't know if that's actually his intention. Intentions are a very hard thing to discern at times. And sometimes people are very clear. And sometimes people like Kanye West are just like, I'm venting. Like I did see one of the things, I think he deactivated his Twitter after this. I don't know if Elon actually like canceled his account, but he was just like, thanks for letting me vent or something. So for someone like Kanye West, it's just like, let me go out here and spew all my hate for all the groups and people that I hate and all the things I'm thinking about. And like, I'm just venting. I don't really mean any of this, or like, I mean it, but like, I don't mean it. But I think above all, dude wants the attention. And I do agree. Like, dude is obsessed with Drake. Dude is obsessed with being the attention. Right now, you know, Kendrick is still kind of going on his victory lap after winning the battle against Drake and kind of topping it all off with the Super Bowl performance. So there's a lot of eyes on there and the attention on that. And Kanye West sits around thinking, you know what I'm not getting? Attention. Right? You know what I'm not getting right now? Attention. Let me jump in the mix and try to bring the eyes back on me away from Kendrick and everything he was doing at the Super Bowl. And I'm just thinking to myself, it's true to me. I see that because it always happens. Even when the beef was going on originally, Kanye West jumped up in an interview somewhere getting ready to say, oh, you know what I'm going to do real quick? Let me tell you guys, we was orchestrating in the background. Like, I'm getting off topic, but he tried to jump in and I think he remixed, I'm forgetting a little bit. He remixed maybe like that or something, trying to jump in and get himself inserted into the beef when he had no business being there. Kanye West at the end of the day is an attention whore. He truly is. That's one of the things he is clearly always going after, and it's embarrassing. So, yeah, man, it's hard to be a Kanye West. It's hard to be a Kanye West fan in 2025. I'm gonna just say that. Let's Let's keep going.
I agree. In fact, when I interviewed him at length over a year ago, you know, he categorically denied that he had any mental illness. And I also asked him if he had any regrets, because he'd been through a storm about abusing Jewish people before, about saying he wanted to go DEFCON 3, DEATH, DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. And I asked him if he regretted it. Let's see what he said. You've now changed what you wanted to say originally. My question for you is, do you now regret saying DEFCON 3 on Jewish people? Are you sorry you said that? No. I don't think it matters. You should be.
Absolutely not.
When you insult the Jewish people and say you're going DEFCON 3 on the Jewish people, that is as racist as anything you say you've been through and any pain that you've experienced. It's the same thing. Racism is racism. And you know that, I think, don't you?
Yeah, obviously. That's why I said it.
So you said it knowing it's racist?
Yes, I fought fire with fire.
Okay.
I'm not here to get hosed down.
At least that's
a different
honest.
type of freedom fighter. I will say I'm sorry for the people that I hurt with the DEFCON, the confusion that I call. I feel like I caused hurt and confusion. And I'm sorry for the families of the people that had nothing to do with the trauma that I had been through, and that I used my platform where you say hurt people, and I was hurt.
But the truth is, he wasn't sorry about the hurt. Otherwise, he wouldn't have carried on doing it for the last 3 days. And just to bring you back, Myron, if I can.
He's back. I said, gaining, and I guarantee you, there's some music coming down the pipeline.
Right.
And that's why he's doing this.
Yeah, it's attention seeking for personal gain. Myron, let me bring you back in, because yesterday when you were getting into it with me about what you perceive to be censorship, you said, why the fuck are you calling for censorship when you have a show called Uncensored? The hypocrisy is incredible. But I was calling for a censorship of blatant, threatening violence in the language, abuse of Jewish people and of women, including trying to market a T-shirt based around an incident of criminal domestic abuse. Surely you would agree with that censorship, wouldn't you?
No, I don't believe in censorship. I think, context matters, and it's very obvious that, he's doing this as a marketing plug. I mean, look, we're talking about it right now, so he's done a fantastic job. He had a commercial with the Super Bowl. He's the talk of the town right now. He's basically stolen the attention from Kendrick Lamar. Some people here are trying to say that Kendrick is more relevant than Kanye when it comes to hip-hop, but he's stolen the attention how? From really smart marketing. Now, with that said, I don't think anyone's ability to speak should ever be censored. Now, do I like everything that he says? No, but I'm going to fight for his ability to say it. I also think it's important to note that sarcasm and humor and making jokes is a part of what he was saying. Is he really going to run around and slap women? No. Obviously, he's being sarcastic, he's being funny, he's being edgy, and I think that's important because we need people like that pushing the envelope so we can protect free speech.
But he was literally trying to sell a T-shirt which had imagery of his friend Diddy, his new friend apparently, because they fell out. His friend Diddy.
Yeah, hold on. I pressed the wrong button. That's the thing right there, right? Can you really say that's what he was doing? Right? Like it's kind of hard to tell, right? Like if I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, let's say I'm someone who like I have some more left in me from like I miss the old Kanye, and I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I can say, he didn't really mean it. He probably meant this. He's trying to get attention. He's trying to market, and believe me, I actually think in a lot of ways that is probably the case. But also, some of these things he's saying, he probably really does believe, right? So there's probably a both and kind of thing going on, and I don't think we can just kind of hand wave away everything he's saying, like, oh, it's just jokes, guys. It's just marketing. Like some people market with their true feelings because their true feelings are shocking enough to catch the attention, right? And it's weird because then whenever they ask him, did you mean this? Did you do it? He always doubles down. At some point, when someone just keeps telling you what it is that they believe and how they feel, you gotta just be like, okay, okay. Like I know we sometimes understand people are trolls and they're not really, all that serious, or you might feel like they're not truly considering what they're saying, and I get that too. But at some point, if people just want to leave themselves out there and they want to hang themselves out to dry, just let them. All right, let's keep going.
He involved in a criminal act of abuse against a woman. Literally, that's what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's America.
Hang on one second, just to be clear, though, Myron, you think that was acceptable?
Again, capitalism is capitalism. Do I agree with it? Do I like it? Maybe not. However, I will support his ability to do it because he's obviously marketing things. He thinks maybe he has some dark humor that he wants to do where he thought that was funny. But the reality is that this is America and capitalism is a thing here.
So when Elon Musk, hang on one second. I'll come to all of you. So just to be clear, Myron, when Elon Musk replied yesterday to someone on X and said that he was now being censored for the legal pornography that he was posting, did you agree with that?
Well, I don't like pornography, but again, it is legal. There's a 3-part test in America with the Miller test to see if it suffices. And, you can make the argument that, it didn't cause any issues as far as...
So Elon was wrong to censor him?
With pornography?
Yes.
Well, again, I don't like porn. I don't think it should be on X at all, personally.
Okay, so you agree with censorship?
For pornography.
Right, but just to be clear, you agree with censorship?
No, I agree with pornography not being on X. I think it needs to be contained in a certain way.
But it's legal. It was legal what he was posting?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, I don't have to like it or agree with it.
But what about his free?
All right, all right. Piers is kind of getting Myron right here, right? He's kind of getting him right here because, I mean, he's definitely getting him right here because Myron is trying to be the guy who's always like free speech absolutist. So long as things are within the bounds of those limits, you can do whatever you want. And so if Kanye West actually posted porn and it was within the rules and guidelines of Twitter, then according to Myron's logic, he should not have been censored, right? But Myron's kind of saying, I don't like it. And so, you know, I don't necessarily know if I cared if it get taken down. But then that goes back to what Piers was doing, right? Like he was saying, I think Kanye West's crazy tirade should have been taken down because it was just like beyond the pale offensive, and it was potentially insightful, you know, inciting violence and all these different things. And so, you know, this kind of goes to that issue sometimes. There are always limits. There are always lines. There is no such thing as true, like free speech absolutism. There has to be a line. There are things that we're like, you can't go here, right? It's just like, and that's fine. That's okay. We should just make sure that those lines are clearly defined and equally enforced, right? When it's a platform like Twitter, they do not equally enforce the rules. This is always a thing, especially with Elon, who's in like the man baby of it all. And he can kind of, you know, willingly choose when he wants to, or, you know, he chooses when he will and will not enforce rules. And to be fair to him, other platforms do it as well. YouTube does it as well. It's just a thing that happens. But I think with Twitter, it's worse because you actually have the CEO on there tweeting back at you. So it feels a bit more personal when it happens. But yeah, nonetheless, I think these rules should just be clearly defined. And then whatever happens at that point, we can all feel like, wow, I really hate that. I don't like it. I'm going to downvote it. I'm going to leave hate comments. But it is allowed if it's within the rules. And, you know, this goes for speech we don't like, content we don't like, and messages we don't like. So, yeah, very, very, very interesting position to see Myron kind of backing up here when again, he's supposed to be the free speech guy. And again, he's coming out against porn, and there's probably nothing wrong with how he feels. But if it was legal and it's counted as speech here, then it probably shouldn't have been taken down either, right? But again, I don't know what it is, guys. So please don't kill me if it's something crazy. I'm not trying to defend Kanye West. I already tell you where I feel about him right now. I think he's off his rocker, and I did not fully see all of these things. And it seems like, based on some of the things they're saying, it's probably for the best. So yeah, let's keep going.
Speech rights to post it if he wants to, if it's legal.
Well, that's a whole other thing. I think with X and pornography, there needs to be some kind of middle ground where, you know, if it's going to be on X, there needs to be a way where it's not necessarily on the main feed, but that's a whole other
So you agree with
discussion.
censorship, don't you, Myron? I mean, for all your chat on Twitter to me yesterday, you actually agree with it.
To compare censorship of pornography to censorship on political speech or
so you think saying that you should treat Jews like slaves and whip them, or bitches deserve to be slapped, that is not, or try to sell a T-shirt of a domestic crime being committed, you think none of those things are worse than posting legal pornography?
Yeah, that's pretty wild, by the way. And that, and this is kind of like Myron's getting owned right here. He absolutely is getting owned right now, because that's a great point, right? Like I would argue, like, again, I don't know what Kanye posted, okay? But I would argue everything Piers was just mentioned is worse than than the video he posted. Again, so long as the video wasn't something crazy, right? I'm standing on this a little shakily, but I'm standing on that, right? But Myron would argue himself that, hey, you know, that is free speech and that should be allowed on the platform. Myron himself says some of the wildest things on the platform and tries to defend it, but now he's coming out hard against something he doesn't like. Again, everyone is ultimately motivated by their own personal sensibilities. This is what you see as cognitive dissonance at its finest. So, all right, let's let them finish.
Yeah, you know, I find it interesting that you're, you know, harping on this, but there's people that monetize murder and death all the time in the hip hop industry. There's people that
I don't agree with that either.
I'm sorry?
I don't agree with that either.
Exactly. You don't have to agree with it for it to happen or for it to be allowed.
No, I'm curious why you think only the pornography, which was legal, to be clear, should be censored. You didn't think any of the other stuff should be. What's the difference?
Pornography and political speech, completely different.
No, pornography and saying that Jews should be whipped and treated as slaves.
Well, that's speech. I mean, if he wants to say that, you know what I mean? I don't have to agree with it, but I think if he wants to say that, I should be able to say that. I mean,
dude is looking terrible here. dude is looking terrible here. Okay, if you don't have to like the graphic imagery of pornography, and he clearly doesn't. But he for whatever reason, the cognitive dissonance is not allowing him to see the hypocrisy of his point right here. He's saying it's different. Yeah, it's different. I get it. One is speech, and one is a movie, right? Graphic imagery. But nonetheless, if they both go under freedom of expression, freedom of speech, then the same exact. Man, my brain just went off. The same exact concept applies, right? All right, let's keep going.
So again, consenting adults having sex and posting that is not acceptable, but treating Jews or saying Jews should be slaves and be whipped, that is acceptable for you.
Speech, you cannot conflate speech with pornography, Piers.
Why
I see
not?
what you're trying to.
Why not?
They're not the same whatsoever.
Why aren't they the same thing?
No, they're not.
Why not?
No,
Explain why the difference.
Because in order to allow speech, and you need to allow all speeches so that people can come in and be able to have ideas, right? We need to
What's
get
wrong
into
with people having sex?
But if you're going to go ahead and say, oh, yeah, let's go ahead and conflate that with pornography, well, there's nothing really to debate there, any real discourse that could be had with pornography of watching people have sex. It's not the same whatsoever. And to try to conflate the two is ridiculous.
Why? One is legal and the other.
You're right. We're not having a debate, but we're talking about freedom of expression. So that's kind of the angle here. When we talk about speech, we talk about art, we talk about things like this. When people are doing, when people have all types of imagery, and whether or not you like it or don't like it, it goes under the context of speech and freedom of expression. So while it's not talking, they're doing something else besides talking. I think it is the same thing in the broader context of expression. Okay, let's go.
Other one is actually illegal. To treat people like slaves and whip them would be illegal. Actually, pornography, legal pornography, is legal. No, so you're in favour of censoring something that's legal, but you're not in favour of censoring something that's illegal. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, him saying that is actually protected under the First Amendment. Hate speech
actually,
is protected.
That's the point. It's not. You don't even know. You don't know enough about your own First Amendment. I seem to know more than you. Although, just to be clear, I have a house in America. When I come to America, like anyone who comes to America, you are automatically protected by the First Amendment as well, right? So I know a lot about the First Amendment. First Amendment actually bans a lot of things, including incitement to violence, incitement to violent hatred.
Anyone that was looking at his tweets, right? Anyone that was looking at his tweets that has any level of common sense understands that it's dark humor, understands he's trolling, it's marketing. He doesn't really mean
nothing funny about it at all. No. Let me bring in Zuby. You've been watching very intently, Zuby. I mean, look, I think what we've just established with Myron, with respect to him, is that when you try and be a free speech absolutist, it gets very complicated very quickly. Because I can't for the life of me, maybe you can articulate it better, but I can't for the life of me understand why Elon Musk, with his action yesterday, censors the legal pornography, and by the way, I agree with him. He should have done that, but that he doesn't censor any of the blatantly illegal things that Kanye was spewing. Notably, the fact that you should treat Jews like slaves and whip them. That is actually a crime in America to encourage people to do that, to incite that level of. Well, hang on, Myron. I'm going to Zuby here. It seems to me that once you get into absolutism about this, it just gets complicated very fast.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's kind of making the broader point I was making. You can't be an absolutist on this. You can fight for it. You can fight for the spirit of protecting the limits, but there is no such thing as absolutism because there are limits. And you can argue that those limits should be protected, but there are limits. So you kind of see it breaking apart here because I don't have the tweets ready, guys, but I need to show you some of the tweets Myron be saying sometimes on Twitter, and you'd understand how hard he fights for it. Like, I'm just going crazy right now, saying whatever I can, to the point where that's actually what got him demonetized on Twitter. Like just a quick little context. Fresh and Fit podcast was like top 5 super chatted channels on YouTube. Like these dudes are pulling in tens of thousands of dollars every month on super chats alone, let alone the ad revenue and all the other things. They were getting almost up to 6 figures a month at their height on YouTube. And until they got demonetized for just saying a whole bunch of dumb things on YouTube. And pretty much that kind of goes to the point. They gave you the ability to say what you want, but that doesn't mean you have the ability to say what you want without repercussions. And in some cases, there are limits. If you go beyond a certain limit, you would get banned. If you don't go beyond that limit, but you go to the point where you go beyond the sensibilities of the company, then you get demonetized. He got himself to the point where he got demonetized, and it's just so crazy that as much as an absolutist as he claims to be, right now he's kind of seeing, there are some limits, and the limits kind of have to go in line with what it is I generally like, right? And that's kind of where it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you're right. Look, it does get complicated, and the reality is that different people have different lines. Different nations have different lines. Every single country has different laws when it comes to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, even things that are graphic, visual things like pornography and so on. Some people will say that falls under freedom of speech. Some people will say that it doesn't. Going beyond that, though, this is all happening on a platform, and social media platforms have the right to set their boundaries where they want the boundaries to be. On Facebook and YouTube, for example, you absolutely cannot post pornography in any form. However, on X/Twitter, for whatever reason, throughout its entire history, they have allowed that. A lot of people oppose it, but for whatever reason, they let that go. So the truth is, ultimately, we can discuss the First Amendment, we can discuss laws in different countries, but I think in this particular case, the question is really about X and the X policies and what is enforced and what is not enforced and what crosses the line and what doesn't. I would absolutely say, look, I don't even think I saw every single thing that Kanye posted. I don't use X on Sundays, but from what I saw, the vast majority of the posts were certainly egregious, but they didn't cross a line outside of what is within the bounds of the First Amendment. When it gets to something like calling for violence, I think that's pretty clear cut.
Yeah.
So from what I saw, there were probably like 3 or 4 tweets.
Yeah.
Maybe somewhere between 2 to 4 tweets that crossed that line. So I'm not going to sit here and defend Kanye. I will defend the principle of free speech. Like Myron said, I don't think that pornography should be on X anyway. I think that's a whole separate conversation. So I think I can say that I think a lot of what he said was wrong, and I can be very critical of it. But the vast majority of it, I would not say is ban-worthy. However, there were a couple posts where he did cross the line, and it's up to X how and when they enforce that.
Yeah, and
Yeah, you see, and I think generally speaking, where Zuby's coming from is where I'm at as well. I feel like it's one of those things where if you're going to go to the point where you might be inciting violence, yeah, you might be coming up against that line, which is where like we don't do that, right? And so that is actually worth a conversation of whether or not the tweets are ban-worthy or whether or not, the user is ban-worthy on the platform. The other stuff that's just like straight up distasteful, right? Like let me sell some Diddy shirts and stuff like that. I don't like it, but I don't think he should be banned for that. I don't like it. But again, I don't think he should be removed from the platform for that or even, deranked in any way. I just think he should get the hate that he deserves for posting this stupid content, right? But yeah, I think it's also okay to say, like, there are the lines, they should be protected fiercely, but we all have to acknowledge and agree what those lines are. And on the and the platforms themselves, they have to kind of be consistent with it, because I think that's a problem too. People are always debating about these things because the platforms do selectively ban people. They do selectively enforce the rules. They have the rules in place, but they don't always apply them evenly to everybody. There are probably some things where it's like, you do this, I promise you, you are not long for this world on this platform. But there are a lot of things where you'll find examples where some people get away with it, some people don't. Sometimes, look, it's based on reach, right? If some like small guy in the corner is doing something, he might be able to get away with doing a whole bunch of craziness because he's not getting reported and there isn't someone watching you 24/7, right? But if you're a bigger, figure and you do something wild, it will get eyes and it might make it up to the higher echelons of moderation at these platforms, right? So, yeah, I mean, overall, I agree with a lot of what he had to say. And I feel like honestly, him and Piers here are probably the most reasonable in this conversation. So, all right, let's keep going.
How much really? I would say that I'm a big fan of Elon Musk, and I'm a big fan of his free speech defense, which I think he's been very proactive in. But I think he's discovered it is very complicated sometimes, because there's no doubt to me that if any ordinary person had been spewing what Kanye was spewing, they'd have been suspended very quickly, as they would be on any social media platform. And what struck me as astonishing, I even directly posted to Elon saying, can you please do something about this? This guy is doing this with utter impunity and quite deliberately testing your limits of what free speech are. And the truth is, there are limits. That's why the First Amendment has limits to it. And that's why you've got to have some limits. Otherwise, people do what Kanye West did, which, by the way, he was doing it to 32 million people. Rabbi Shmuley. So 32 million people were seeing a very high-profile rap star boasting about being a Nazi, boasting about loving Hitler, boasting about wanting to, or ordering people, instructing them to make Jews be their slaves and whip them, saying that bitches deserve to get slapped, trying to sell T-shirts with domestic crimes on them. All of this I thought was just completely outrageous, and not a matter of free speech, but a matter of somebody literally spewing violent and criminal rhetoric.
I also like Elon Musk, and I'm very grateful to him for having gone to Israel right after the October 7th attacks, being escorted by the Prime Minister of Israel himself, Benjamin Netanyahu, to see the women that were raped, that were beheaded, families that were burnt alive. I was there 1 week after the attacks as well. But I also agree with you that this is absolutely unacceptable. I saw your tweet, Piers, and that's why I wanted to come on the show. You know, Zuby, and wait, just a second. Zuby and Myron, you seem like very decent guys. Wait,
Myron, you can respond to him when he's finished talking.
Let me speak. I believe, respectfully, that this interview will live in shame for the two of you for the duration of your careers. Am I really hearing, first of all, from you, Myron, that he was joking when he said he beats up women? Ha ha, I beat my wife, Bianca, and that's funny? What is funny about beating up a woman? What is funny about threatening violence against a people who, in the lifetime of my mother, were gassed at a rate of 10,000 a day and turned into ash? This interview, respectfully, will be on your highlight career, living in infamy. It is not funny to murder 1.5 million children. It is not funny to rampage through the Jewish community surrounding Gaza, beheading Jews and non-Jews, including Thai workers with spades. I saw their beheaded bodies. For God's sake, there's real consequences to this hate. There used to be an alliance between the black and Jewish communities, knowing that we were hated for no reason other than the fact that we were different. I ask you, Zuby, you believe in free speech completely? If I'm David Duke and I'm saying, you know, in 1964 in Birmingham, Alabama, we blew up churches, the Klan, and we burned 4 young black girls alive. Let's go do it again. Let's organize it. Sunday, this coming Sunday, 3 o'clock, we're going to burn those black girls alive. And you're going to say, well, he has a right to say, give me a break. What you're going to say is that this man is a disgusting, filthy, excuse me, a disgusting, filthy racist. Now, wait, now just a second. Kanye did not incite violence. He confessed to violence. He said, I beat up women. And Myron, who the heck are you to say that he didn't mean it? Do you have evidence? You mean he's lying and you're telling the truth? We saw what happened with Diddy. And by the way, the only person here was...
All right, hold on. There's so much here to unpack. I was waiting for a moment where he paused so I could try to just jump in and speak a little bit. I'll just make a couple quick points and I'll let him finish off on his tirade because he's trying to cook here. And but I don't know if I necessarily agree with all of it, but some of it I would agree with. First, in case I missed it, I don't think the Zuby guy was necessarily saying Kanye West didn't potentially incite violence. It's kind of the thing that I was saying too. When I first heard it, I was like, did he really? Can people interpret it that way? Yes. But if he is, and again, I probably should have seen all his tweets here to have the full context. But if he did that is kind of coming up against that line. That's a bit crazy, right? And the whole thing, if he really said I'd be my wife, like, dude just admitted to a crime. I don't even know if that, I don't know that. In my mind, that's actually within the bounds of free speech to admit a crime like an idiot. But, and I don't know if you would go ahead and take it off of X. In that case, you'd probably just leave it there for the right people to see that, right? But I don't know. Man, where was I going with this? I want to add a little context, guys, just so you know. Rabbi Shmuley, and I think Myron, they fought on Twitter before. I think a bit of the context you would get, and you hear a lot of Shmuley bringing it up, is like ever since the October 7th attacks on Israel and the battle between Israel and Palestine kind of brought back to the forefront in everyone's minds, and people kind of trying to be forced to pick a side for different things. And I mean, it's a very crazy situation. But ever since that happened, you've had people kind of digging in and fighting on Twitter literally every single day. And this guy is a staunch Israel defender. Every single thing Israel will do, he'll kind of come to defend it regardless of where it is, whether it's like they were just in doing that or whether it's like, they're going too far and people are, innocent people are truly losing their lives over there. And it's a bit crazy. No matter what, he kind of comes up on one side, and Myron is on the other side when it comes to, I guess in this case, he has I think he's from Sudan, so he has a Muslim background, and so he's more sympathetic to the Palestinians, and their plight, and these guys are fighting on Twitter. So I'm trying to give you a little bit of context to see, like, he's not like smoothly kind of going off here and throwing all these extra things. It's not like he just met the guy today and he's thinking to himself, hey, you know what? I am going to just like, I'm just going to blame you and throw these things on you. This is kind of a buildup from like prior conversations and things that they were involved in. And it's kind of just all coming together now on Piers Morgan Uncensored. So I just want to give a little context there. I don't remember what I was originally going to say here because there was so much he was talking about, but I just thought, let me give that context for you. All right, let's keep going.
Any dignity in this debate is Choke No Joke, who's saying that this is offensive to black men. Do you guys not understand this is feeding every stereotype of black rappers? I love the black community. The greatest American of the 20th century was Martin Luther King, who died so that people could have dignity. But that's not what a lot of people think. A lot of people think that rappers are into using the word B-I-T-C-H-E-S, and Kanye says I'm a billionaire, and Choke No Joke comes along and says this is offensive to the stereotypes of black men. And it is. And you guys are freaking defending this. I want to be clear. I'm sick of anti-Semitism. I'm sick of racism. There are white racists, nationalists who hate black people. Some of them are around President Trump, even though I think he's a great friend of the black community, but he has those voices. We have Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson denies the Holocaust, and yet he's in the president's ear. He denies the Holocaust.
All right,
please stop defending hatred.
Okay, I want to come to Choke No Joke in a moment, but I think it's only fair.
Sorry, because I like he went on such a big tirade that I think even when I started talking about it, I went off on a tirade because I kind of lost track of where he was. I'll just respond to that last part. Stop defending hatred. I think this is an interesting point. Because in general, I think it's weird. I can tell you, I do not like hatred, right? It sounds like, it sounds like such a stupid thing to say because it's like cliche, right? But like clearly, you're not gonna, like, I'm not gonna be up here defending hatred. That's kind of ridiculous, right? But I think when you find yourself in the spirit of defending free speech, hatred comes with it. Like the principle is greater than the content sometimes, even if when it means that content is against your own personal sensibilities. So I can kind of see where they're both coming from. Like I would argue, and I'm not gonna speak for Myron because Myron sometimes really does look like he'd be defending hatred. I'm not gonna lie, but I would say I can always say I like there's nothing about spreading hatred that resonates with me as a person. That's not my message. But I will defend the concept and principle of free speech, which includes love speech and hate speech. All right. So, all right, let's keep going.
And right, that I go to both the people you've just spray gunned and get them to respond. So, Martin, your response to Rabbi Shmuley.
Yeah, again, I find it incredible that he's over here so critical of Kanye West, right? About, oh, he beats his wife, whatever. Meanwhile, you're walking around with a war criminal that's killed hundreds of thousands of innocent people, bombed them indiscriminately, etc. I find it very interesting that you're so hardcore on Twitter about some tweets that may or may not have been a joke, more than likely a joke. Anyone that has common sense, sarcasm, dark humor, etc. Versus you're running around with someone that's literally a war criminal wanted by the ICC that's killed tens of thousands of innocent children, right? And then you're over here calling for censorship. I'm tired of anti-Semitism. I'm tired of racism. People like you are the fucking problem because here's the thing. Americans are tired of censorship. We're tired of being browbeat into being virtue signaling losers like you, who always sit there and try to rage people and say, oh, you go ahead and you provoke problems with people. I've literally seen you do this. You go up to people, you provoke them, and they tell you fuck off, and then you get mad and you yell anti-Semitism. Quite literally, what I want to hear is this. Rabbi Shmuley, until you can actually call people liars for what they say, no one cares about anti-Semitism anymore. You guys run around, use it for everything. We're tired of it. Stop trying to browbeat us and virtue signal, saying, oh, that's anti-Semitic. How about this? When you can call someone a liar for what they're saying, then we'll start taking you more seriously. Other than that, you're fucking dildo rabbi.
All right, Zuby, your turn.
Okay.
May I you can reply in a moment. Zuby, to respond to you first. Zuby?
All right, I'm going to keep it calm. I'm going to take the high ground here because that was a heck of a lot of straw manning going on there because you know that I did not support what was said. I did not support anything hateful. And I actually very clearly said that I don't support inciting violence. And in fact, that is a clear violation. So you can try to straw man my position, but people can listen to this interview.
You did say that. I heard you very clearly say that.
Freedom of speech means racism. It means anti-Semitism.
The trouble is, Myron, it doesn't mean you incite violence. That's the line.
Myron, I didn't interrupt you. Myron, let me interrupt you. Myron, let me respond calmly. Myron, let me respond calmly, please. This is speaking over each other doesn't serve the interests of the public, please.
I understand that, but I'm saying,
why don't you finish interrupting me and then I'll speak?
Okay, because you've been yapping the whole time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Myron,
Thank you, Myron. Thank you.
Don't talk
for
over each other
showing-
because nobody can hear what anyone's saying.
Okay, Myron, thank you for showing your true colors. You believe that when Jews defend themselves against genocidal acts of violence, that we are the genocidaires. We Jews are never victims. You said that I provoke anti-Semitic attacks. I was recently attacked by someone while I was working on the acceptance speech of one of President Trump's cabinet picks, by the way, because he's a friend, did it as a favor, when a crazy Islamist came over and threatened to murder me. It was filmed, it was watched by tens of millions of people. You believe that Jews are never the victims of anti-Semitism. They are the they are the culprits of anti-Semitism. They're the culprits. We invite anti-Semitism. This is the oldest. You have to let me speak. This is the oldest anti-Semitic trope in the book, that we Jews want to shake down the world for money because we're money obsessed. You are saying exactly what Kanye said. Now, I wouldn't stop you from saying it. You're a Kanye supporter because you agree with this ideology, and I have no problem with you saying it because you're not calling for me to be whipped. You're not calling for me to be enslaved. So you can say it. You are a Jew hater, and you have a right to be a Jew hater. I agree with, because I'm a free speech absolutist. But Kanye West says, I beat women. His wife was ordered by him to strip naked. You're opposed to pornography, and you support what he did at the Grammys to that poor, abused woman? Let me ask you, Myron, why don't you speak out against what Kanye did to his wife if you hate pornography?
Again, I don't like pornography. I don't support it, right? You don't have to agree with someone 100% to still be able to defend them. Like I said before, there's people that hold views that I dislike, but I'll defend their ability to say it because I have freedom of speech. Whether it's racist, it's anti-Semitic, or whatever else, term people want to use, I believe in freedom of speech, and that means protecting speech that you might not like. Also, you lied. You walked up to Sneeko, you tried to provoke him during the election night, and he ended up embarrassing you. So you do go up and try to instigate arguments with people, and then you call it anti-Semitism when they respond to you.
Okay, I'm going to actually give Myron credit there. Aside from the part earlier in the story, earlier in the video where he was complaining about the expression of the pornography on X and on whether or not it was free speech, I'll give him a little credit and say, if he really believes it's not free speech, then I guess that's the argument for him. But I will say he does defend speech that is really ridiculous and that he doesn't agree with. My issue with him is that sometimes he goes out of his way to not defend the ability to do the speech, but like supporting the speech. You get what I'm saying? Like I can say, hey, I want to defend the right to say what you want within the guidelines, but be like, but I'm making it very clear that I don't agree with this message and that I think this message is ridiculous. He will say, I'm defending the right for you to say it, but when it's like the really crazy, like out of pocket things, in a lot of ways, he shows that he's kind of supporting it, and it's ridiculous. And then when you're like, "Yo, you support that? That's kind of crazy." He'll say, "No, I'm just defending the right to say it." But it's like the way someone acts when they are defending defending the right to say something versus defending the message of what was said is very different than the way he kind of acts sometimes on Twitter. And again, guys, I am so sorry. I do not have the tweets to demonstrate this to you. I should have came more prepared for today, but it's late. So, all right, let's keep going.
Okay, let me go to choke no joke. Hang on. Choke no jokes. Be waiting very patiently. Look, you can see how quickly this escalates into a lot of ad hominem attacks. What do you feel?
I would like to say,
yeah.
First, I'm sorry. What's your brother? The brother name Marvin? Myron? What's your name? Myron, brother, please, we on the world stage, man. I don't know if you're African American, or I see you colored. I don't know if you're black, African American, but brother, please, because one, we're talking about race.
Idea's not race.
Hold on, brother. We're talking about race. We're talking about racism here, right? Now, if Piers went on X and said black people should be hung by trees and whipped, right? Would you not think that we would not have the same feeling that the Jewish community is having right now with Kanye making these types of tweets?
You know what? I wouldn't really care if Piers said that, because I would say it's a freedom of speech. You can say that if he wants. I might not like it, but again,
my question to you is, as black people, would we be offended as the Jewish community? People would be offended right now.
Here's what I'm trying to say. Fuck your feelings, dude. Nobody cares. Freedom of speech is freedom of speech. I don't care how you feel. You need to allow people to say what they want to say. If you don't like it, that's fine.
Okay.
But
All right, real quick. This is where I think they're talking past each other, because if Myron engages with his actual question, his question is, would you feel offended the same way the Jewish people are feeling offended by Kanye West's tweets? The answer is obviously yes, right? You would feel offended. But you can admit that and then say, but regardless of how I feel, regardless of how I feel, and I feel like that's ridiculous, I don't like it, I will defend your ability to say that nonsense. I feel like if he just gives a little bit, then the guard of the other guy, I forgot his name, will go down, and he can hear Myron's point. When everyone is not willing to just give a little bit in the conversation, these are why things are not productive. You have to give a little ground where it makes sense. In this case, yeah, just admit, like, I would be offended. That's kind of crazy. But at the same time, I'm principled, and I would defend your ability to say the things that I absolutely hate. And you know what? I'm going to exercise my speech in return and tell you how trash you are. That's the game, right? Like, just give a little bit, get a little bit. Everyone's happy. All right, let's keep going.
Here's the problem. Hang on. Here's the problem I have with this. Is that Zuby has very clearly drawn a line, right? Zuby, I know from interview. Hang on. Zuby has always passionately defended free speech, as indeed have I. But like me, he draws a clear line when people are inciting violence. There is no doubt that is what Kanye West was doing. And the only member of the panel who has not denounced that is you, Myron. And I'm baffled why you can't draw a line that is drawn by your own First Amendment.
Again, because I have the common sense to realize that he's not talking about really beating women. It's a joke. He's been making tweets trolling the whole day.
Brother, how do you?
We don't know that. That's the problem. That's the problem. You're giving him too much credit. You're giving him way too much of the benefit of the doubt. Like I said it, I understand some people are probably like, no, it's Kanye. He probably means this, and I get that. But also, people who people who aren't giving him that benefit of the doubt, or they're reading it without additional context, or like they're not a fan, or whatever it might be, they might read it for what it is, and it might just look like an incitement of violence. You have to realize that too, right? Sometimes your intentions are not easily interpreted by the masses. That's just what it is. Sometimes people aren't going to be able to say, hey, I know what he meant, and let me tell you what he meant. He meant this. No, you don't always get that. So sometimes you do need to be a little bit clearer with what it is you're saying, right? So, okay.
You know it's a joke. How do you know it's a joke?
It's very obvious a joke.
Can I finish my point?
Have you asked him?
Can I finish my point?
Have you asked him it's a joke?
Let me finish my point. First of all, brother, listen. You said, right, that it can be dark humor. You said it's common sense. Everybody don't have common sense. Kanye has fans that will do and follow whatever he does, right? I've seen his career go from the beginning up to now. I've seen people being influenced by him. I've seen people dress like him. I've seen people talk like him. So if he's influencing these hatred things, talking about he's Yadolf Hitler and influencing his audience
Did he
to
really
hate
say
you,
that?
influencing his
Hitler?
audience to disrespect women, to influence young black men to have their women walk around naked. He has that influence, brother. So when you say, oh, it's just common sense, it's just dark humor, you're saying that because you lived a little to learn to know. The youth, the young black men, they don't know. Like they thought in hip hop, dudes was really killing and shooting and stuff, and they thought that these people were real gangsters. That birthed the drill music. Because when they found out this guy was a wankster, he wasn't real, they had to go and shoot and kill first, then go to the studio. So it has influence, brother.
Yep.
And you breaking my heart because I watch you sometimes, and I didn't know that you would be. You're not ignorant, but what you're saying is pure ignorance right now. Everybody know my Instagram is real choke, no joke, right? I get censored for just telling the truth, being a strong heterosexual man, and I'm censored. What Kanye doing is not freedom of speech, it's hate. You know what I'm saying?
And that's a very interesting point, because a lot of people get suspended for far less than what Kanye said. Zuby, again, I want to bring you back in here. Some people say, look, the best sunlight, and the sunlight can sometimes be the best disinfectant. In other words, you let someone like Kanye spew his vile garbage, and actually the court of public opinion sees him for what he is, and that settles the matter. I've got to say, I'm more with Choke No Joke, that of the 32 million people that follow Kanye on X until he disconnected himself, you just don't know how many might have an impression from him that they then want to follow. You just don't know, because they're not all smart people. A lot of people might be easily led down a horrible line of anti-Semitism or whatever it may be, because their hero Kanye has said this. What do you feel about the sunlight disinfectant argument?
Yeah, look, I like to know who people are. It's part of why I like freedom of speech. Right here, we've got a lot of passionate people on this panel right here. There's people out there in the world who like some of us and who don't like some of us, right? I think every single person on this panel has said things in the past that people would have liked to cancel them for, ban them for, censor them for, and so on. So personally, when it comes to the concept of hate, people are allowed to be haters. People can be hateful. And I support free speech when it comes to people being hateful. I'm like, cool. It doesn't mean I like what they're saying, but they have a right to say it. If someone wants to be nasty about white people, nasty about black people, nasty about Jewish people, nasty about whoever, Arabs, any ethnicity or race, I don't support that. I don't think it's good. But if you're calling, as I said before, if you're calling for violence, or if you're, really, that's my line. That's my line. If you're saying like these
you said
people
you
should be
support
hurt
hate?
or this individual should be hurt, I'm not saying that I support hate, but people have a right.
So if a
to
white
say
man walked
hateful-
up to you and say, "Hey, get out the way," you support that?
I support his right to say it, and he can deal with the
And
consequences.
you don't feel no way about it. You're just gonna go
I'm
out
not
about
gonna, I'm
it.
not,
What,
I'm,
and what
I'm
are the
not gonna
consequences? Said he can
I'm
deal
not-
with the
I'm
consequences.
not-
But to
I'm
be
not going to-
Yeah, you see, that's real quick. I just because it's getting really good here. This like I feel like I'm in 90% alignment with Zuby's position on, and I mean his position in totality. Like right here, I'm probably 100% in alignment. Insofar as when we talk about sunlight being the best disinfectant, this is why like I will defend free speech as well. Let these people go out there and show their whole ass. Let everyone know how stupid they are, how ridiculous they are, and then we're gonna go and respond to them and clown them. We're gonna go and respond to them and prove to everybody we have the better ideas. Their ideas are trash and they're trash. That's the game. Because if you try to like ban these people off the platform completely, again, the people who are crazy, but within the guidelines, very clear here, then those people, they get to foster communities in the darkness. And then these thoughts and ideas get to perpetuate unchallenged. And that's the worst part. If there's ridiculousness being pushed unchallenged, then cultures form around that ridiculousness. People believe it, people perpetuate it, people propagate it. And it's one of those things where like sometimes people, and like I put myself in this box too. There's things where you're just like, well, people can't really believe that, right? It's got to be ridiculous. I don't even have to address it. No, because some people are actually kind of stupid out here. Let's be very clear. Some people are just dumb out here in these streets, right? And so if we aren't actually doing our thing to address these people, address these ideas, address these communities, and fight with these people on those grounds, the other people who are convincible will be persuaded by the only person talking. And if the only person talking happens to be, a psycho, then they win. And so that's why some people think, oh, well, ban them. But that doesn't work because you don't ban them and they go away forever. You ban them and they go somewhere else where they're not banned. And then they grow, right? So again, I will agree with Zuby on this. I don't like hatred. I don't, it's like the guy said, what if someone came up to you and said like something crazy? I forgot what he said, but like, no, I wouldn't be like, oh, well, I'm happy you said that. No, I'm not, like, I got some words for you too. But I defend your right. I defend your right to say it if we're saying it on a platform. I'm going to clown you right back. I'm going to attempt to make you look like the absolute idiot that you are. And when I say attempt, I probably don't have to try that hard. It might be pretty easy for me to do, but nonetheless, I'm going to do it. I'm going to fight you back on these grounds. And that's the game, right? So again, Zuby to me is probably the most reasonable in this conversation. I don't agree with Piers a lot of the times. It depends on the conversation, the topic. I agree with him mainly here. I think he has more of a tendency to want to ban people, though. I can't agree with those sentiments of what he's saying. But in terms of him just talking about the line, I agree there, right? Like the First Amendment has lines too. Right. So again, if we're talking about violence, inciting violence or anything like that, like, nah, you can get all the way out of here. But if you're within that bound and you're just being edgy, oh, don't worry, I got you. We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight. And it's perfectly fine because I'm gonna win. All right, let's keep going.
For you, what would the
I'm not going to
consequences
call
be?
the police on him.
Okay.
It could get physical.
Pierce.
In the same way, if someone goes up to someone
we're
and
ignoring
insults
one of
someone's
the
mother,
most.
Wait a second, Rabbi
might have
Shmuley. Wait a second,
consequences.
Rabbi. Everyone, wait. I'm interested in Zuby's response to that. If somebody came up and abused you like that, what you're saying, I think, is that you would deal with it how you want to deal with it.
Exactly. Look, there are all sorts of things. Look, we're all grown men here. We all know that if you go up to a man and you just start insulting him, insulting his sister, insulting his family, calling him names or whatever, we all know that could result in physical violence. It doesn't mean that you're going to run away and you're going to call the police and say that, he was being hateful and so on. And people insult each other all the time, online, offline. There's all sorts of nastiness that exists in the world, and I'm not trying to police it all. When it comes to the concept of freedom of speech, as I said, to me, the line is not hatred. Hatred is extraordinarily subjective. And even when it's clear, people have a right to be hateful. But if people are going to make threats against individuals, or you're going to call on an audience and tell them, hey, get that person, do this thing to that person, go hurt that person, then to me, that is absolutely crossing a line. And that's even why in the First Amendment in the USA, which is the strongest protection of freedom of speech, they recognize incitement to violence.
Yes,
so
they do.
To me, the concept of hate and incitement to violence, those are two different categories. On principle, I don't support the former, but I support people's right to say those things. And the latter, I think that's where it crosses.
Okay, so the interesting question for
consistent.
you, for Rabbi Shmuley, I would say this. Do you as a Jewish man, and I've had this conversation with many Jewish people, and many of them do feel this, what I'm about to say, that if the level of hate and hateful rhetoric gets to a certain scale, that in itself can just precipitate violence against Jewish people. In other words, if you encourage and I would say the same, by the way, about that hateful language towards black people, towards Arabs, towards anybody, right? In other words, that the scale of hatred through words can drive violence, even if it's not intended to.
Exactly. We call that defamation. Let's take, for example, how Jim Crow and segregation outlived slavery. You had white racists, especially the Klan, who basically told white men that these black men wanted to defile your women. The Germans said the same thing about Jewish men in Germany. Now, that's one of the things that people feel most strongly about. I have to protect my women, I have to protect my wife. Then we saw lynchings. Choke No Joke made a very good point. We saw all these lynchings. Those lynchings were a direct reaction to, look at Emmett Till. Emmett Till was 14 years old. Arguably the most famous lynching in American history. They cut off his penis and put it into his mouth. We now have his coffin at the Smithsonian National Black History Museum because they said that he whistled at a white woman. Even a 14-year-old boy wanted to rape a black woman. Now, was that incitement to violence? Of course it was. The Klan is all about incitement to violence. When the Klan says that the black man by voting is going to take over the entire South and take your women and take your jobs, that is incitement to violence. That's why, Zuby, with all due respect, you're just being too general. You're not giving any strict categories here. Now, with Kanye, we know he said he beat women. There's no reason to say he was joking. We also know he said that Jews should be whipped. He's inciting violence against Jews. Now the question is the rest of the defamatory things, that Jews are parasites, that Jews steal your money, or what we just heard from Myron, that we Jews are guilty of genocide, killing that Netanyahu is a war criminal. Is that not incitement to violence? You're saying the Jews, wait a second, please. You're saying the Jews are murderers. Now let's be clear.
No, hang on. No, I'm going to stop you there. No, hang on, Rabbi Shmuley, because you said at the start of this, by the way, that you wanted to thank me for being an honorary Jew for supporting Israel, as if somehow I've given you a blanket support. I haven't. I've been very critical of what Israel's been doing, particularly in the last few months. And in relation to Netanyahu, it may well end up that he faces war crime charges. So, let's be clear. Hang on. My point is this: criticizing a government or a prime minister or a president when they are waging warfare is completely legitimate. Right? You may not agree with the terminology. I don't, for argument's sake, I don't believe it should be termed genocide. What's happening, but I do believe that Israel, Israel having had a right and the duty to defend itself, I think has gone way too far. Now, I just think you've got to disseminate between being able to criticize Netanyahu and his government without being immediately accused of being anti-Semitic.
Yeah, I just let me just address that point, because I realized when they mentioned it last time, I didn't see it. I guess on this channel I haven't really talked much about that stuff. I always feel as though there's so much more context that's required to really kind of address certain topics because of how charged they are, that if you don't have a decent enough level of understanding, you probably should chill and not talk about it too much. But I will say on that much, I just, like in my observation of social media discourse, it does sometimes kind of seem like when it comes to people criticizing, let's say, the Netanyahu government and how he's running it in Israel, people then automatically go to anti-Semitism. And I find that that's kind of weird. Like, is it possible that some people's critiques are actually anti-Semitic? Sure. But sometimes it's just like people are saying, hey, like Netanyahu it looks like he actually doesn't really care for Palestinian life or any of these things. And whether or not you feel that's true or not, saying that in and of itself isn't anti-Semitic. It's just like a viewpoint that you have about how he, as a leader of a government, is conducting war in his region, right? And so it's weird, because I have seen the word anti-Semitism used as a weapon in many cases to basically shut down all dissent, right? Because, like, if you're called anti-Semitic and enough people believe it, like, it really could hurt, like, whatever you have going on in life, right? Whether you have a professional career, like most of us do, or you're on YouTube, or you're on Twitter, or you're on any of these things, if you are truly deemed that, you will get shut down, you'll get demonetized, you're just like it won't go well for you. But if you're just trying to say, hey, like, guys, that's like what I'm talking about is not specific to Jews. I'm talking about the government of Israel, right? Like if I had some bad things to say about how, I don't know, Justin Trudeau is handling stuff in Canada, that, like, you wouldn't say that's racist, right? You would just be like, well, yeah, you're criticizing a leader. I don't support, like, hold on. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I don't support a lot of his policies. So when I critique him, that doesn't make me like anti-American. If anything, I'm just an American voicing my support for, for voicing my disagreements with the president. Are there some things he does that I can agree with? Sure. And when he does, I'll give him credit for it. But when I don't, I'll hop on here and say, hey, some dumb shit, right? Like, that's the game. But like, you wouldn't automatically think that is like racist or something like that. So it always seems so weird to me when people make critiques of the Israeli government that they get, labeled as anti-Semitic. And I feel like guys like Rabbi Shmuley sometimes play that game because he has a platform and he knows he can weaponize it. And I feel like when you do that, you're kind of crying wolf. So when there's actually people out there really being anti-Semitic, people at some point have trouble seeing the difference. As in, like, some people will say it's all anti-Semitic and they'll jump on what you're saying, and other people will say none of it's anti-Semitic. So even when it actually is, they can't tell. They can't tell. So I think when we talk about certain words and phrases, we should be very, very, very specific and careful with when we use those labels. Same thing when people like to call things racist. We can't call everything racist. Everything's not racist, but when it is racist, it should be very clear that's racist, right? So, all right, we're almost wrapped up here. Let's let them finish their little spat.
I agree. So let me respond to that. When I was Myron, I'll let you speak in just a moment. Let me respond to Piers. Piers, I agree. Israel's a democracy. We invite criticism. You can be an Arab citizen of Israel and stand outside Netanyahu's house in Jerusalem and call him Hitler, and nothing will happen to you. The Israeli authorities can do nothing, and you'll watch it. I film this all the time. The difference is that, and here's the key, Kanye actually wrote that I want to normalize discussion of Hitler. In other words, normalizing Hitler means that everyone is now Hitler. So I was there when Elon Musk did his salute. I was there in the audience. He never did a Hitler salute. It's a lie. And he wrote, we just normalize Hitler. So now Elon Musk is Hitler and Benjamin Netanyahu is Hitler. Now you spoke the other day to Tucker Carlson out of Saudi Arabia. It was a very interesting interview. And you made the point that the man that I consider to be the greatest statesman of the 20th century, Winston Churchill, he considers the villain of the 20th century. Again, the normalization of the discussion of Hitler. Who was the bad guy in the Second World War? Not the guy who gassed 10,000 Jews a day. Not the one who brought belligerent war to Europe. Not the one who starved to death 5 million Russian prisoners of war, but Churchill, the man who saved democracy. No, we are beginning to normalize the discussion of democratic leaders trying to protect people's freedoms. And in that sense, I say, Netanyahu, whatever you think about Netanyahu did not launch some aggressive war against Gaza. If anything, he allowed so much money from Qatar to go into Gaza that allowed them to fund October 7th. That should be the criticism. So the moment you start saying that Netanyahu is Hitler, that is where Kanye West begins to win. Churchill is Hitler, and Netanyahu is Hitler, and now we can no longer distinguish between good and evil, between free societies fighting to stop the gang rape of women and the beheading of children versus Hamas, who preaches the gang rape of women.
I don't want to get into the wider thing, other than to say that on that point, I'll come to Myron for this. When Democrats have called Trump Hitler, for example, repeatedly for the last 8 years, I kept telling them, if you do that, it will inevitably backfire because most Americans know he's not Adolf Hitler. And he's not going to murder 12 million people. He's not going to incinerate 6 million Jews in ovens in the Holocaust. So, it's such a fatuous, horrible analogy to make. But Myron, I wanted to ask you as we come to a close here, has anything you've heard change your mind, in particular, perhaps, what Zubi has said? Because you both passionately believe in free speech, but he has clearly drawn a line, the same line that is drawn by the First Amendment, when it is an incitement to violence. So are you rethinking, perhaps, your blanket defense of everything that people say, including if they incite violence?
I think context matters. I think if someone's being sarcastic or funny or saying something in a joking term, I think it's important for everyone to understand that he was doing this in the middle of a marketing run, right?
And if I said to you now, sometimes you have to do it like the Pharaohs. You have to make black people work for you, but watch them as close as you can, whip your blacks. If I said that to you now, literally taking his words about Jews, what would you say?
That is wild.
Because
you find that funny?
Yeah,
I don't think you would. I don't think you would. And by the way, nor should you. Nor should you, because it's not funny.
To you, it might not be.
Hitting women is not funny. Beating women is not funny. There's nothing funny about beating a woman.
Hang on, let him finish.
Again, humor is subjective. What you might find funny, I might not find funny, and vice versa.
There is nothing subjective about beating a woman. It is absolutely wrong.
Let him finish, please. Let him finish, please, Rabbi Shmuley.
Beating women is not
Let him finish, please.
Hold on, Rabbi. I get it. You got your panties in a bunch here, but remember, again, I don't have to like something for it to be allowed. And the other thing, too, is that humor is subjective. I don't get angry at race jokes. I don't get angry at anything. People call me all kinds of deplorable things, but I don't get angry because I don't let racism or any type of ism affect how I think, because that's how they control you. So again, I will defend people's ability to say anything, even if it's offensive. The other problem, too, I think that's very important here, that Rabbi Shmuley and Cho keep mentioning, is this whole, outrage culture and feelings or whatever. That's precisely the problem. We live in a soft society where people are more concerned with what other people are saying and pay way too much attention to it. Look, Kanye did a good job because we're clearly talking about this, and his marketing has worked.
No,
Now,
it's
if it
not. No, it's
offended-
not. He hasn't. I don't think he has. I think he's completely fucked his career. Honestly, I do. And I'm sorry to
doubled
use
his-
the F word, but we are
Probably,
on
yeah.
sensitive. I think he has self-imploded in such a way that actually you
Probably,
watch.
to be honest.
There's no way this has been a good marketing thing. for
Not
him.
entirely,
No
but
way
yeah.
at
He
all.
doubled his shirt sales, Piers.
Huh?
He doubled his clothing sales
All
from
right,
doing this.
Just watch.
He got a
Let's look back in 6 months' time and see how good this has all been for him. Look, I want to end. We've run out of time, unfortunately. It's been a brilliant debate by all of you. Thank you. But choke, no joke. Let me just go to you for the final word on this.
I'm just so disappointed in my brother right here. But just make sure y'all subscribe to my YouTube channel, Choke No Joke. I got a lot of old
All right. All right. It's over. It's over. I mean, I honestly wasn't sure we were going to go through the whole thing today, but I just I had it on 1.5, 1.4, 1.3 speed, and we got there, guys. Hopefully you're okay listening to it that way. I tend to listen to a lot of content that way, so it sounds fine to me, but then I kind of forgot that I'm here with you guys. So let me know if you're okay with that speed. I feel like these guys actually talk really slow. And I don't know. I think it's late. I don't know if I can sit here listening to them talk at like what feels to me really slow speeds and be okay with it. So hopefully it was fine with you guys. I would say, again, to summarize some of the key elements and key points of this discussion, of this debate. When it comes to free speech, I am trying my best to be in alignment with the principles of free speech. That means that you can say what you want, so long as you are not, making threats, inciting violence, and a couple of other, profound exceptions. And I think when we talk about social media platforms who, like X, that say that they want to adhere to these standards, I'm okay with them doing that. Now, that means people are going to say things that I actually hate. People are going to say things that I actually don't like. I will defend their ability to say it, and then I will clown them for saying it. I will defend their ability for saying it, and I will attack them for saying it. I will defend their ability for saying it, and I will try my best to embarrass them and make them regret saying it in the first place. That is the game. In my view, that is what free speech is about. We have to be able to debate ideas we don't agree with, and I think it makes us stronger to be able to debate ideas we don't agree with. It helps us understand our positions better, and it helps us understand where people are coming from. Now, in the main, like some of the main stuff that we're talking about here, when you go ahead and you start crossing these lines into violence, inciting violence, and all these other things, that's where, like, no, I draw the line. You can't say that. Like, you can't, because now it's not just about you and debating. It's about like the other stupid people who can't tell the difference and might actually act on some of the things that you're saying. If someone actually gets hurt because of the dumb things you said, well, you know what? I don't think you should have said it, right? And I understand that there are a lot of things that are up for interpretation, and sometimes things aren't necessarily clear. I get it. But when they're, pretty damn clear or clear enough, then I think it's perfectly fine with those tweets getting taken down. Whether or not a platform should ban the user altogether for saying a couple of things, or they should have like a strike system or whatever it is, I had to think more about content moderation on these platforms. I couldn't really tell you which way I land. I feel like if people said some crazy things, you take down the tweets, you give them a chance. If they are repeat offenders at some point, I guess you would have to give them temporary bans and things like that. But in terms of how you do that, I'm not going to speak on that, right? Anyways, to get back to the other point, though, when we talk about hateful speech, remember this. In saying that I will fight for the right for people to say things, it does not mean I endorse the speech that they say, right? And I think that's kind of where a lot of this conversation went off the rails, because a lot of people were saying, he said this, he said that, he said this. Do you you're cool with that? You accept that? You like that? And I think in the case of Myron, he might have made it clear enough that he wasn't okay with that, but in some cases he couldn't just give a little bit and say, no, that's clearly terrible, because he was trying to defend Kanye. Oh, it's marketing. Oh, he's joking. He was clearly doing this. I have no idea if he was joking or marketing or whatever he was doing. And like I said, he could have been marketing and joking and also telling you how he really felt. It's not always a either or. Sometimes it's a both and, right? And I just feel like we need to keep these things in mind. So in my mind, the best thing to do if you want to be someone who defends free speech is defend it, but make your positions clear. You know what? Kanye West is trash for all the things he's saying, but I defend his ability to say a lot of his trash things. Not the inciting violence part. That stuff, like, what are we doing here? But the other stuff, you know, let's just call him trash. And you know, like, it just kind of further shows everybody he's not someone to be taken serious like that anymore. Still, he's a great artist. There's a lot that he does, like his clothing and all that stuff. Like, he really has a lot of good things about him in terms of his artistic value. In terms of his personal value and in some of his ideas, like, does anyone take anything he says seriously anymore? Does anyone actually care? I certainly don't, right? But that's me. You know, let me know how you feel about him. And we're going to end this right here, guys. So thank you for joining here today and sitting through all this with me. I had fun. I hope you did too. Hope you learned something from this, or you probably are thinking about some of these things yourself. Let me know how you feel about it. All right. I'm going to be doing a lot more live streams in the next couple of days throughout the week. Going to try to get back onto a consistent flow of content as I was on vacation the past couple of days, but I am back, guys. So anyways, that's my perspective. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video if you haven't already, and subscribe, as I got much more content like this on the way. So until next time, YouTube, peace.